This is the small motor that will secure the fuel door on Volvos. This unit actually can fail inside or just maybe work intermittently. Bear in mind that the way this is activated, it depends on the setting in the car software. So basically, when you press the button to unlock the door, it will just unlock it right away with the key in the ignition. But when you are this thing will lock the door automatically when you start moving the car. On my car, it's just it locks 2-3 seconds after the car starts moving. On other models, it takes many minutes, 5-10 minutes. So it depends how your software has been set with the VIDA software of Volvo. But sometimes these units just fail inside, and again will start working intermittently, maybe just open, maybe just close, or not at all. If that happens and you need to refill the car, basically what you do is just get inside the trunk. On the side trim there's a cover. You just turn the knob, toast that cover, and reach for this unit, and it has a manual release tab. So this will sit like this. That's the locked position, and you notice this tab here. You just push it, pull it actually with your fingers to release the door and to unlock the door. It's just, this is meant to be mechanically activated in case the motor fails. I think the easiest is really to get a few units, 1 or 2 for spare from a junkyard or off eBay. These are really easy to remove and replace. They will fail sometimes in they just, you don't actually know where this will fail. So just grab a few spares. To remove it, actually you need a T25 Torx. That's the bolts, the screws. Actually, you just undo the door, open the door, and you have 2 screws here. You need the screwdriver or a small bit like this. T25 again, that's the standard Volvo one. Undo the 2 screws, toast the unit, and then once you get it out from there, just, it has 2 tabs which are kind of annoying to undo, and you just release the connector. Again, you really need to release the connector after removing the unit from there, otherwise you don't have access to the connector. So that's the easiest way to go. But if you are just curious, or maybe you don't have access to a used one, or a new one is too expensive, and I think this is almost the same unit on other European cars. If you want to open it, see what's going on inside, I'll show you, but it's kind of tricky because you need Torx bits, and you will need different ones. The T25 is for the 2 screws here, but then for this one it's a T20, and for this one it's a T15. So if you don't have this, don't even try with something else, flat screwdriver or what else, it won't work. So need those 2. I'm just giving a warning before continuing with the video. When you place this guy back in place, make sure you place it properly, sit it there. You notice it has a seal. It needs to be sealed from water, so make sure you really insert it as it should, and try to just make sure the pin doesn't force on one side or the other. So just make sure it's just sitting there, not rotated and stuff like that. That's one thing. And so let's go on with what happens is there is that you see this, the way this guy was. So this is going to be a 10 minutes video, so if you want to take your time, just check it out. Otherwise, just, you got already the information to replace the unit. The way it works is that the car will power the electric motor and will switch the voltage. So to let's say you got to the gas station, you press the button, it will put a certain voltage to rotate the motor in one direction until it stops, until it just feels like it doesn't turn anymore, it will stop. So I think it's applying the power for a couple of seconds, just enough to move this guy. And then when you start moving with the car, just move away from the gas station, then the car will apply the opposite voltage, so the motor will turn in the other direction and will lock the door until this doesn't move at all, it stops moving. Well, there's 2 issues that can happen. Basically is that you see the motor actually gets power and rotates the thing until it doesn't move at all. So basically when it stops moving, the motor will still try to force a little bit, and there's a plastic gear and they will just shear the teeth of that gear after 10 years when the plastic gets too old and brittle. That's one thing. And the other thing is that the motor has two small metal tabs, the electrical connectors, which are not welded to the motor, are just inserted, and this will just break loose a little bit and just lose contact after a while. That's the two issues I have with this. You notice there's also a small rubber piece here. It's kind of a stopper. I don't know if that's really important or not. It's just to dampen a little bit when the thing will unlock, so the motor doesn't stop too sharp and doesn't shear those teeth. So this rubber piece also gets really stiff on time, so perhaps it doesn't really damp any longer, and when this guy stops, the motor will just force too much on the plastic teeth or the gear. There's a larger gear here, and that gear will shear teeth in time. So I'm going to open this guy. I just want to mention, don't try to use any grease on this thing, because in winter the grease will get too stiff, will force too much on the motor, and on the plastic gear will shear the gear or will just jam all together. Don't use any grease. If you want to use a little bit of grease, maybe only on the gears, use something, a silicone grease or something that is not petroleum grease that will get stiff in the winter. Silicone grease usually will just stay a little bit softer in winter time, but if you just can skip the grease altogether. So I'm going to undo this guy and keep on with the video. This is how it looks inside. You got a motor, electric one, and notice the way those two small legs sit in there. So this guy goes like this. It's pretty tricky to remove it because those tabs, metal tabs, are just stuck in there, so just try to lift the tabs. And also when you put it down, it may just get loose here. That's the problem, I think, is notice these are not just, they are just inserted there. You can remove them like this, but in time they just get loose a little bit and then lose contact there. That's one thing. The other thing again is this plastic weld that can get sheared. The teeth can just get sheared away. I don't know why that would happen. It's just because the plastic gets old and brittle. So at that point you have no choice but to replace this thing. The way this guy goes in here, the motor goes on top here. This, you need to place it with the tab away from the motor side, right? So this sits in there. Again, if you place grease, only silicone, a little bit on the gears here, but not too much, and that should be fine.